So without a doubt, marriages are failing. Relationships are much more difficult to engage in. The traditional nuclear family unit is completely collapsing. And I believe that most of this is because of popular cultural narratives that are very harmful, especially such popular cultural narratives such as feminism, the women's liberation movement. I think they've had huge negative impacts on marriages, the nuclear family unit. 50% of marriages end in divorce nowadays. And one stat that I think is very important is that 73% of those divorces are initiated by the women. Because of movements like the women's liberation movement, there's a real strong narrative telling women to try to be leaders, to try to be independent, that it's okay to get divorced for essentially no good reason other than your own happiness. And I would argue, I think that duty should be more important than happiness. I mean, don't you think especially if you're married with children, now you have a duty as a wife, as a mother, especially to those children. I mean, if you look at the stats of children whose parents go through a divorce, it really interferes with them developing into productive members of society. The stats of children raised by single mothers is incredibly disturbing when it comes to those children growing up to be productive members of society. So many of those children grow up to be very highly depressed, very highly suicidal. So many fatherless children are the children that go to prison. They can't hold jobs. The negative effects are really overwhelming, once you actually look at the data. And I genuinely think one of the worst things that we did was allowing such things like no-fault divorce. It basically means that you can just leave a marriage for no good reason. Okay, if you're just not happy, instead of working on your marriage, facing the difficulties and the challenges in that marriage, you just walk away for no good reason. And I understand there are some good reasons for a woman to want to divorce from their husband and leave him. I mean, there's cases where the husband is cheating. There's cases where the husband is physically abusive. These are issues. These are legitimate issues that I understand. But the thing is, I don't think what many people realize that women are leaving marriages, people in general are leaving marriages, obviously the majority of women, leaving marriages for just no good reason. And I don't really think that this is a narrative that we should be so easily accepting. And this video is one of those cases. And throughout this video, I'm going to point out some things that I think is just very disturbing as far as having this particular outlook. And it's really disturbing how definitely mostly women are going online and receiving actually quite the following of just talking about their journeys. Their journeys, man. These females be going on some journeys, dude. They go online and they will receive quite the following. This lady here, she received, she has a pretty big following of just telling her story, telling her journey. Man, these women be on some journeys, y'all. So let's watch this video. Leave a comment if you think I'm wrong.
Let's talk about divorce. Specifically my divorce, and I am here to help you become the woman of your dreams. And I also pride myself on really uplifting women and to feel so unapologetically in love with yourself. I preach that here. I want women to just love themselves and to praise every single inch of you with every perfection and imperfection there is, because I love myself so much, and because
Okay, so she's really in love with herself.
Let's talk about divorce. Specifically my divorce, and I am here to help you become the woman of your dreams. And I also pride myself on really uplifting.
Okay, so this is already disturbing as fuck. Okay, now don't get me wrong. I believe it's good to have respect for yourself, but I don't believe it's good to be that much wrapped up in yourself. Okay, it's coming off a little bit narcissistic, and I can already tell from just the way she's talking that literally if I just met this chick and this is all I heard her say, it would be an immediate red flag, and there's no way I could never truly commit to her. To me, it already seems like somebody that would leave a relationship way too easily. I just got that from that 10 seconds of this video.
For you right now, because I have so much respect and so much grace and so much admiration for who I've become. I have to give credit where credit is due, and this woman was shaped during the hardest part of her life, which was her divorce. To be honest, guys, there's nobody to really crap on. My ex-husband is not a bad person. We are still co-parenting. He's still a part of my life, just like I'm part of him.
So there, she said it. Her husband is not a bad person. There's no reason to crap on him, she said. So why'd you leave him? This kind of blows my mind that in a relationship nowadays, in a marriage, that you can be a good person and you can have no reason for anyone to want to leave you, and they still just leave you because culturally we have accepted it so much. It's so easy to just walk away nowadays. How did we get here? How do we just leave marriages that easy? This is also why I just feel like that, especially for a man, because of this, I don't even think it's a good idea to get married. Because of this being such an issue in this country right now, that I don't even think it's a good idea to get married. Because the thing is, when a woman leaves the relationship, when the wife divorces the man, it usually completely destroys that man's life. And there are so many cases to where like that's the leading cause of men becoming hugely depressed, leading to suicide. This is an unpopular issue that nobody really talks about that much. This way of thinking right here that you can be with a partner and have no issue with them and just be so selfish. Everything that she's saying already is just, to me, it's just all I'm hearing is selfishness. If you're a wife, you have a duty, and that duty should come before your own personal happiness. And the thing is, I think you should have to find happiness within the realm of that duty. You create your own happiness. You can't just receive happiness from outside sources. Your own personal happiness begins and ends within your own mind.
We have a daughter together, and I will never disrespect him publicly or even privately. That's just not the person.
So they have a daughter together.
It did not work out, and that's okay. And to be honest, I married him knowing I didn't really like him. Like, I loved him. But love is different than like, especially in romantic relationships. We are still co-parenting. He's still a part. I'm becoming, and because I adore the woman that is sitting before you right now, because I have so much respect and so much grace and so much admiration for who I've become. I have to give credit where credit is due. And this woman was shaped during the hardest part of her life, which was her divorce. To be honest, guys, there's nobody to really crap on. My ex-husband is not a bad person. We are still co-parenting. He's still a part of my life, just like I'm part of his. We have a daughter together, and I will never disrespect him publicly or even privately. That's just not the person I am. We just did not work out, and that's okay.
So they just didn't work out, and that's okay. Even though they had a duty together, even though they took vows, even though they had a child together, it's just okay. She just didn't want to be there. He's a good guy. She can't even say a single bad thing about him. And to push this ideology that it's just okay to leave that easily. I don't even, like, were they even having issues? I mean, what happened to just actually being committed to somebody and sticking it out and working through your issues? And this is the thing. This is why 73% of those divorces are initiated by the women, because women are out there telling other women that this is okay, that this is acceptable. I don't believe it is acceptable. This is why, me personally, I would find it very difficult for me to get married, and I believe this is why so many men are walking away from marriages, not by way of divorce, just by not actually ever committing and actually getting married. I think that more men nowadays are just not seeing the advantages of actually getting married when women leave this easily, when it's becoming this acceptable to just walk away from a marriage for no good reason.
To be honest, I married him knowing I didn't really like him. Like, I loved him. But love is different than like, especially in romantic relationships. There was a bunch of things that in my mind I knew I didn't like. I got in a marriage hoping he would change, which is 100% completely on me, which is disastrous, which is horribly unfair also to who he was. I need this to be said, and I need this to be very clear. He's not a bad person at all. He never put hands on me. Yes, there was a lot of other things done. Yes, there were a lot of other things.
Then why did you leave him?
Because of that, guys, I stayed in a marriage far too long. Because I had this preconceived notion that people only got divorced if he beat the shit out of you. If he was constantly just cheating on you. If I thought those were the grounds for divorce. Until I finally was able to realize
those are the grounds for divorce. Those are literally acceptable grounds for divorce. Look, I would argue that if you do not have any intentions of staying in a marriage, don't get married.
And really accept the fact that I did deserve more, and that me simply not being happy was enough. Me simply not wanting to come home to this person. Like that should have been enough, and it never was. Because I was always raised to think that you work through your problems and you try to shift and you morph until you're no longer who you were before the relationship, and you are constantly trying to change somebody who there's nothing wrong with.
Marriage is about compromise. You're gonna have to shift some things. That's how you make it work. You work through your issues, you learn how to love each other, you learn what the other person wants, and you adapt and you improvise and you overcome your struggles. This whole way of thinking is warped. And the reason why it bothers me so much is because at the end of the day, the ones that suffer the most are the children. It's the children that always get the short end of the stick. And there's plenty of data to support this. Children are much better off growing up in two-parent households. And to think that you can be this selfish and try to push this narrative that this is okay to just leave a marriage for no good reason, it's completely fucked.
Being happy is enough. I was going through anxiety, was raising a kid. I had a lot of help. I had my mom, I had my sister, I had my family, I had my dad. I had the best help in the world, but I still had to make that decision for myself to just allow myself to be happy, which was so difficult. I had my best friend in the whole world helping me. And I think what was also like the hardest part about that
Here
was
comes
that
the
I realized,
emotional
like,
journey
my best friend
music.
was my person, and I couldn't allow myself to be with him because it would have looked so wrong, you know? And I also stopped myself from being happy with him because it would have looked so wrong to people. And I just didn't allow myself to be happy, like, for the longest time. And I would.
So I'm going to make an assessment, okay? She's a fucking narcissist, and she's probably a sort of a dominating alpha female with masculine energy, okay? Despite this pretty face, you can't let these pretty faces fool you. And the guy that she was with before, he was probably just a masculine man that didn't want to change his whole way of living and his whole thought process for her, and she couldn't conform to his whatsoever, and she couldn't adapt for him, and she didn't have enough control in that relationship, so therefore she had to find some other probably weaker man that she could have more control over. Yes, compromise is a big part of the relationship, but this is also what many men come to find out through experience, that if you allow a woman into your life and you start changing too much for her, she will ultimately lose respect for you, and then she'll leave you anyway. So you come across a couple different types of women that are going to come along and they're going to demand a whole lot of change, make you change, and then they lose respect for you and end up leaving you or cheating on you. Or you actually continuously change for her, but then we do find this with experience. This is what men are constantly trying to tell women, but this is something that women don't like to believe us. The thing is, when we change too much for women, they lose respect for us anyway. A lot of women don't like to admit it. But the thing is, most women want to submit, but they just want to submit to a certain high status enough of a man, the most ideal man that they can possibly think of. And if they can't find that man, they will actually settle, just like what she did. She settled for this weaker man that would take on her child, take on all her trauma and all her baggage, and ultimately just allow her to lead the relationship.
I went through a lot. Those like 3 years of like separation and ultimately getting a divorce. I went through a lot because at that point my best friend had also left, and when I realized like my true feelings for him, he was dating somebody else. I remember driving home from LA one day and the song Lazy Eye by the Silver Sun, I will never forget this. The song Lazy Eye by the Silver Sun Pickups came on, and I listened to it and I cried for like 30 minutes straight because so much hit me at once, and I knew I was done, and I knew that a lot of pain was coming, but I was so ready to just get it over with. I was so ready to just get through it. And I'm so happy I stayed so true to that. And I'm so happy I did move forward. I'm so happy I did choose myself. And I'm so happy I did choose my happiness. And I'm so happy that I was okay with being selfish for once in my life. And that decision changed everything.
She said it. All you got to do is let them talk. Selfishness. That's what it all boils down to. It's selfishness. You put yourself in front of your family. You put yourself in front of your husband, yourself in front of your children. And instead of adhering to the duty of a wife and a mother, you just leave. And the most harmful thing about this is that most women leave and they never find anybody else. They never find anybody that's willing to take them on and raise their children and accept them for all of their shortcomings, their flaws, and their trauma. Many men out there don't want that chaos in their lives. So therefore, many women actually end up regretting this decision of leaving their husband who was a decent man. And they just end up being lonely cat ladies for the rest of their lives, and they grow old and die alone. I'm gonna keep following this girl right here because I'm willing to bet. I'm gonna make a prediction. This dude, who I believe is probably a weak man, this guy that she's with, that I believe is probably a weak man, she is going to ultimately lose respect for him, and she's probably going to leave him too. And there's a good chance that she's probably just going to continue to repeat that cycle until she as well also becomes a lonely old cat lady, living and dying and growing old alone.
Not only do I love Brandon, and not only do I love the man that I'm with, but I like him. I like him so much. I just want to hang out with him. And I'm an introvert. Like, I recharge by myself. I always, 9 out of 10 times, would rather be by myself. But that one time, I choose to be with him because I like him. Like, I just like him. Like, he's so funny, even when he's not. He's the quietest soul. He's the most introverted man, but he's that peaceful silence I want to be around. He's that energy I want to like wrap myself in and know that I'm safe with somebody.
Look at
He's
that.
just my
Look at him.
person, and I appreciate him so much because I know the opposite.
Look at him. You can see him doing the song and dance. You can literally see him doing the song and dance and whatever it takes to keep this woman continuously entertained. But what happens whenever you get tired of doing the song and dance? Look, I've been there. A lot of us have been there. And we've learned from experience. It's experience that has taught me about this. I've been there and done that and got that t-shirt. And the thing is, when you date a female that is in some way out of your league or seemingly out of your league, at some point you get tired of doing the song and dance. And at some point you're going to attempt to display some sort of actual masculine characteristics. And then when you do, it will not be accepted and it's not going to end well for you. And then, because you didn't realize that you were doing the bait and switch, but you did. You just tried to do the bait and switch. But the thing is, you didn't go into that relationship on those terms, declaring that you are a man and that you are going to have masculine characteristics and you are going to want to be a leader. You are going to want to be the head of your household. So now that you're trying to display those characteristics, that shit ain't going to fly, bro.
And that's why I live my life with so much gratitude. And from the looks of it, it's made him appreciate me so much more. It's made him fall in love with me so much. If anything, it showed him that I was worth coming back for, that I was worth waiting for. My best friend came back and I was so happy because I was like, I have my best friend. I don't care if we date or not. We started dating 2 months after, he told me, you're the one. I've always wanted to be with you. I've been in love with you. I thank you for finally giving me a chance. And that was the best decision of my life, is saying yes.
He said, I thank you for finally giving me a chance. So she had this dude probably friend-zoned forever, and then she finally gave him a chance. Look, I'm telling you right now, she does not respect this man. She may think she does, she may be telling you that she does, but she does not respect this man. I'm not so sure that this man respects himself.
And letting go of like, well, what will people think? What will people say? I'm so happy I let all that go. We started dating. My YouTube career kind of took off. His career took off. I got my own place with Autumn, which was something I always promised her, just a home for the two of us. After that, Brandon and I moved in together, and then we had our baby, and we bought a house. So many good things are happening. Like, it's pouring. And again, it's all because I allowed myself to be selfish, and I allowed myself to just be happy, and it was hard.
There she is. She said it again. She allowed herself to be selfish. They're literally trying to push for selfishness to be the acceptable thing. Who would want to marry this? Who would want to marry somebody that says that at some point I got to let myself be selfish and put myself before my marriage, before my husband, before my children, and if I want to leave, I can leave? I would never marry nobody that thinks that way. I would never put myself into a legal contract with someone with this thought process. Now, if you want to do that, that's fine. You do that. You don't have to take my advice. All right. I'm the bad guy for thinking the way that I think. But I also believe that I'm living within the realm of reality. And I don't think that I'm expecting to live a life of rainbows and butterflies and fairy tales. And that's what she's trying to make it look like in this video, that she ended up with the fairy tale happy ending. But it's not over yet. We have yet to see what's going to happen within this relationship. And I'm willing to bet that it's not going to be good. I think that this man is simping his ass off. I think he's doing the song and dance. I think that he's probably letting her lead in the relationship, and he's probably not portraying the role of head of household and the leadership and the leader in that relationship. And she's probably telling him that she loves him for that. But typically what happens is that females like this will ultimately either leave that man or cheat on that man, or both, for a man that will do none of that shit. Because I do believe that naturally women do want to be submissive, but it's only to a certain caliber of man. And I think what we always end up seeing is that a lot of times a woman will leave her man or cheat on her man or both for a man of this particular stature and caliber, but then that man, he won't even keep that chick, because that man probably has options. And why would he accept this woman with all of her past and her trauma and her children, her multiple children from multiple baby daddies, when that man can probably have just about any female he wants? And that's when a lot of these females find themselves alone, because they're making these moves at a time in their life to where their sexual market value is no longer what it used to be. Then they wind up alone with cats. And I think that's the real not so fairy tale happy ending that most of these women end up with. Look, y'all, this is a brand new channel. I have 0 subscribers, so please subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, please like it. It costs you nothing, and it helps me out a whole lot. If you disagree, if you agree or even disagree, I want to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment. All the engagement helps. I appreciate the support.